Right, so welcome everyone. I am Chris Hawton. I am here on behalf of the British Fantasy Society, and we're going to be talking about the importance of audiobooks with Michael Stevens, who is the senior content producer at BBC Audiobooks. And I'm also just going to declare an interest for those who don't know, I co-host a Doctor Who Book Club podcast called The All New Adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club. So there may well be some Doctor Who related questions. And actually, we're going to kind of start off with a little bit of an observation. Agent of the Daleks, which, as the name would suggest, is a Doctor Who related title, by Steve Lyons, was nominated for Best SFF audiobook at this year's Speakies, which was sponsored by us and the British Fantasy Society. Agent Daleks didn't win. However, that category was won by Gino Dawson, who is of the Doctor Who parish. So that's kind of good news as well. Michael, could you just give us a little bit of a background into yourself and your role at BBC Audiobooks, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've been working with BBC Studios, formerly BBC Worldwide, for 25 years, and during that whole 25 years, we've been publishing Doctor Who audiobooks. We started with narrated TV soundtracks, predominantly for the missing episodes of Doctor Who. So where the TV episodes no longer survived, we would put out the audio that did survive with some linking narration. And through the years, we've developed our ranges so that we now have, it's about 5 distinct ranges alongside the TV soundtracks. We have audio original stories, of which Agent of the Daleks is an example. We also have been mining the vast back catalogue of novelizations of the TV series that were first published by Target Books. And we've just completed a whole run from 1964 from 1964 through to 2005 of TV stories that have been novelized. We've now made them into audiobooks. We also publish BBC Books novels, original novels. When they publish, we do a Sim Pub audio edition. So that's really the potted history of our Doctor Who publishing. And then I guess in terms of science fiction generally, we have over the years published a lot of BBC radio productions, dramatizations largely, of the likes of John Wyndham, H.G. Wells, Quatermass, and a few other sci-fi productions as well. And of course, veering more into fantasy, there is the Lord of the Rings, that legendary radio.
I thought you were going to mention that. Yes.
From 1981, and its predecessor, which was a dramatization of The Hobbit.
Yeah.
So we've certainly dipped many toes,
feet even.
But into sci-fi and fantasy.
Okay. So do you yourself, did you have a kind of like a background in science fiction before you started working with kind of like BBC and its various different precursors?
I didn't have a professional background, but I'm a lifelong Doctor Who fan.
Good.
Full disclosure.
Yes.
From the age of 4, it caught me, and that of course, was extremely helpful when I joined the BBC Radio Collection, as it was known then.
Yeah.
I wasn't taken on as a science fiction or even a Doctor Who expert. I was working generally in the output of comedy, drama, etc. But
Yeah.
because Doctor Who was part of that publishing, and because I had always followed Doctor Who and I knew a lot about it, that helped a great deal. And doubtless that also influenced our growth of the Doctor Who list. And also, you know, um, I have always loved John Wyndham.
Yes.
Always loved other TV series like Blake
Yeah.
Seven,
Yeah.
Space 1999, and so on.
Yeah.
And Douglas Adams as well, which is another
Yes.
big element of our publishing.
Yeah.
I'd kind of followed Douglas Adams's work since being a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, it was a happy sort of confluence of my interest, the job.
Excellent. Excellent. Um, so, do you think like audio exclusive titles, like for example, because I think Agents of Daleks is audio exclusive,
Yeah.
whether those allow more experimentation with sound design or narrative style, or
It can do, yes,
yeah,
because the author can build that in right at the beginning,
yes,
and
yeah,
actually Steve Lyons is a good example with
yeah,
the Agent of the Daleks, because yes, he did do that.
yes,
Um, so it's very interesting because audio, on the face of it, offers an unlimited canvas on which to draw or paint your story,
yeah,
because you're not restricted by visual constraints,
yes,
either be they budgetary on TV or
yeah,
whatever can be created on a computer. So
yeah,
on the face of it, audio does offer that scope, and if you are clever and canny, you can harness that really well.
mm.
Of course, if you say, well, you can do absolutely anything, and indeed you can do everything, in many ways that it can be, in a funny way, that can hamper you,
Mm.
because, well, what do you do? So sometimes I think there's a case for using the audio medium in quite a economical, pared back way. A
Mm.
voice in a room, two voices in a room, three voices and a couple of sound
Yes,
effects, so on.
yeah, yeah,
Or you can choose to throw on loads of sound effects,
mm.
loads of music, and so on. And of course, in every environment that you choose to tell your story, that can be portrayed and
Yeah,
illustrated through sound design very easily. So yes, I think it does offer more scope. Obviously, if we're doing an audiobook of a published novel, then we just the reader just reads what is on the page.
yeah, yeah,
So yes, I would agree with the fact that if you're starting from scratch with an audio story, you can really harness the medium
yeah.
to, as much as you like.
Okay. Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah, as you say, like yeah, I mean, it's like how the books were sort of originally in the 90s, where kind of like, the budgets and everything, all the effects are there in your mind, and you can just add to it. And
Yeah.
yeah. I just speaking of kind of books from the 90s and whatnot. I was just thinking it's been a bit of a while since BBC Audiobooks produced a reading of a kind of like Doctor Who novel from back in the day that wasn't tied to a TV story. I was just kind of thinking because I think quite a few of those were as part of the build up to the 50th anniversary and stuff like that. But are there plans for kind of any more sort of readings of some of the old BBC Books novels or the Virgin novels? Or
Yes, we do have plans.
okay,
They are tentative at the moment, and
yeah,
they won't see fruition for at least a year.
okay,
Um, but yes, definitely, we've focused on the target
yeah,
novelizations because that
mhm,
was a program we embarked upon, and it felt like the right thing to to complete that program.
yeah,
But as that has now been completed, apart from a
mm,
few mopping up titles, which radio adaptations and a few missing stories that never made it to the screen,
yeah,
we will be turning our attention to those full-length novel,
mm,
very big books actually,
yes,
which makes for more more listening time.
mm,
Uh,
yes,
but yes, we will be. Uh, of course, not all of those books are going to be
yeah,
suitable for a
yes,
modern mainstream audience.
yes, yes, yes,
But I think plenty of them will be.
yes. Yes, some of them may require some editing, possibly, but yes. Um, but yeah, yeah, no, that's great because quite a few of those books are now like yeah, if you they are in some ways they are the late 20th century's missing stories because they're not available in kind of like bookshops and if you buy them online then some of them can go for like 100 odd quid and more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think anyway, yeah,
Absolutely. And in fact, that was the situation with the Tiger books when we began,
mm,
which was 2005, that
yeah,
they were dormant and out of print.
mm,
And at the time, I did wonder whether actually people would still deem them as sufficiently of interest,
yeah,
which they have done.
yeah,
Um, and yet I'm really aware that there is a great deal of nostalgia now around the 1990s
mm,
books.
yeah,
Uh, I was there at the beginning as a reader,
mm,
and found them to be really exciting.
mm,
This
yeah.
prospect of, as I think the tagline said, stories too big. Was
Too
it
broad, too deep.
too
Yes.
broad, too deep?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and it was a great journey to go on. And yeah,
Mm,
absolutely, I'm very excited. With As you say, we did do some. We
mm,
tended to shadow what BBC Books were doing in terms of reprinting.
yeah,
So
yeah,
the ones that they reprinted, most of them we made audio editions of.
yeah, yeah.
But absolutely, I think the fun is going to be selecting the books and the
Mm,
readers and
yeah.
then seeing how they turn out.
Yeah. How do you choose narrators? Because I mean, there are some times where you're lucky enough to be able to kind of like use the actor who played the Doctor or the companion. But sort of there are other times where, for whatever reasons, yeah, those actors aren't available. So I'm just wondering how does that process happen?
Well, I have largely tried to find readers who were in some way involved in
Hmm.
either the particular story, if it's a TV
Yeah, adaptation.
novelization,
Yeah.
or in the era from which
Yes.
that story comes.
Yes.
And yes, we've been very fortunate, as you say, several doctors,
Mm,
Tom Baker, Colin Baker, Peter Davison, um, Paul McGann, have read and proved to be terrific readers.
Mm.
Likewise, lots of the TV companions
Mm.
have proved to be, wonderfully talented, and they've become
Yeah.
very popular narrators. So as that has gone on, we've reused a lot of those readers. Then
Yes.
we've added where perhaps a companion or a doctor wasn't available from a story. We've looked at the guest cast,
Mm.
the supporting cast, and
Yeah.
drawn from those. But as time has gone on, it's been 20 years since we started with the TV novelizations. Uh, Many of our readers have passed away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, for certain eras of Doctor Who, you don't have many
Mm.
surviving actors to draw upon.
Yeah.
So then we also have, quite a band now of really talented readers who weren't necessarily associated or weren't at all in
Mm.
the TV series. Having said that, people like Dan Starkey, who's become one of our more prolific readers, he did
Yeah.
play a role. Obviously, he played
Several roles. Yes.
several roles in the modern series,
Yes.
but he lends himself. He's so versatile. He lends
Mm.
himself to really any era of Doctor
Yeah.
Who.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Similarly, John Coleshaw,
Mm.
who you know he came to it because I was aware of him as the as in his
On
Dead
Dead Ringers.
Ringers
Yes.
incarnation, doing the Fourth Doctor, and I thought
Yes.
that voice is so good. If John was interested in reading Doctor Who books, wouldn't that
Yes.
be a brilliant match? And it turned out that he was a terrific reader.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sort of how we've gone along, and it has been really nice just to have a few guest casts who perhaps just done one or two stories.
Mm.
I'm thinking people like Pamela Salem, who read
Yeah.
Hand of Fear, Michael Cochran, who read, I think he read three of the Target books, and then as we've brought people on for the Target books, we've then used them for the original novels.
Yeah.
The because BBC Books are, as you'll know, every year they've been publishing original novels
Yes.
largely based on the current TV
Yeah.
series.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really how we've gone along and
Mm.
done it.
Yeah. Um, how do you kind of like decide? So when you were doing the Target books, I appreciated that project's kind of pretty much come to an end, but how did you decide like which titles to prioritize? Because I remember when the videos were coming out originally, that to my frustration, they hung on to Terror of the Zygons to the end because they wanted to finish on that rather than say a sort of possibly a less appreciated story. So I was just, yeah, how was that with the kind of like the scheduling or kind of prioritizing the releases?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's an interesting the way it did evolve. We started by focusing on those very first three Target
Mhm.
books, the David Whitaker and Bill Stratton books,
Yeah.
Doctor and the Daleks, Crusaders, and so we brought William Russell in to read
Mm.
those. And at the same time, two of our earliest readers were Geoffrey Beevers and Caroline John. And
Mm.
having done their first books, we then thought, well, that they're great readers, so we'll add on more books that would suit them. So that informed a lot of the choice. But very
Mm.
quickly, I wanted to be sure that within any publishing year, we had a good mix of doctors and eras.
Mm.
And even within that, I always wanted to have a mix of enemies. So,
Yes.
didn't want to have a run of Dalek stories or a run of Cybermen stories, wanted to always keep variety there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the driving in making the choice, the driving factors have always been the readers, the writers, the eras, and the monsters, and
Yeah.
always trying to keep a variety within
Yeah.
each year. And then, of course, as we've gone on, the the number of titles that were available still to do has shrunk, and
Yeah.
so the choices get narrower. But I think we did manage really to keep that variety going and
Yeah.
ensure that in any year you'd have a first Doctor, a second, a third, etc.,
Yeah.
all the way
Yeah.
up to
Yeah.
seventh. Um, the the fact is that our last one of that complete run that I mentioned
Mm.
was the Loch Ness Monster, which is based on Terror of the
Terror
Zygons.
Gods. Yes.
Some people, I did see that some people were speculating that we'd done that in order to do what the DVD range had done, but in fact,
Yeah.
it was a complete coincidence. What, what happened was a couple of years ago, I looked ahead and thought, right, we are going to be completing the range. It would be very nice to finish on one of the first tranche of Target books,
Yes. Yeah.
that great sort of early heyday of the mid 70s.
Yeah.
And so I looked at what was left, and there weren't that many left, but Loch Ness Monster was one of them. So I did hold it back so that we could celebrate on that. But it wasn't anything really to do with the DVD.
It wasn't a homage.
It wasn't an homage to that, no. And John Cultural read that, and
Mm.
he's kind of neck and neck with Geoffrey Beevers in terms of being our most prolific reader.
Mm.
And so it was nice to finish with a John reading as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, what do you think is the biggest challenge in producing Doctor Who audiobooks, in compared to kind of like the other sort of SFF franchises that your work kind of touches upon, do you think?
Um, well, I think you've always got to be aware of the um, the core essentials of
Mm.
Doctor Who, and by that I mean getting the details right of key sound effects,
Yeah.
key pronunciations of all the many planets and
Yeah.
aliens and
Well,
so on.
the TV show sometimes skips that a little bit. There's Matt Smith. Matt Smith had an unconventional pronunciation of at least one planet that comes to my mind. But
Right.
that's yes, yes, and that's it. I'm thinking, what is the right way to pronounce Metabolus? I think Metabolus, but I think he pronounced it Metabolus. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, and of course, famously, Tom Baker would
Mm,
insist on calling Gallifrey
yeah.
Gallifrey. Uh,
Yes.
and there was uh no what was it? I was looking something up the other day and I thought, right, I'm going to have to go to iPlayer just to get the definitive
Yeah.
pronunciation on that. And lo and behold, within one episode, two different characters pronounced the word. I forget what it was differently. So you sometimes have to
Yeah.
pick one. Um, so those sort of things, and
Yeah.
voices of particular characters or
Mm,
aliens,
yeah.
you've got to keep an eye on how they sound. I always think we don't we again, if it's a novelization, we shouldn't slavishly try to emulate the way something sounded on
Yeah.
screen because in to in many ways these books are in their own little
Mm,
Doctor Who universe.
yeah.
However, the Daleks should really sound like the Daleks. Cybermen
Yes.
should sound like them. Uh, and we've been very lucky in having Nick Briggs on
Mm,
board to give us those voices. So throughout all of our titles, when the Daleks and the Cybermen appear, with the sole exception of Doctor Who and the Daleks, which was the first one we did, and we hadn't got Nick on board at that point. But for all of the others, when you hear those characters, you are hearing the authentic
Yeah.
TV voice,
Mm.
same K9. But yeah, so I think those are probably the key things that if you're dealing with an original sci-fi or
Yeah.
fantasy novel,
Yeah.
you got perhaps more free range.
Yeah. I mean, possibly with Hitchhikers, like there are definitely people expect kind of
Yes,
there to be certain
yeah.
sounds and
We
yeah.
the interesting thing with Hitchhikers is we've always published the radio episodes. We at BBC Audiobooks have never recorded the books
Oh, okay, yes. Okay. Yeah.
because um, is it Macmillan who do
I
publish
think it is.
Hitchhikers? I think
Yeah.
it's Macmillan.
Might be.
So they have their own audiobook readings.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So we've never ventured into that. Nor indeed have we ever ventured into original fiction based on Hitchhikers. That's an interesting idea, but we've never
Hmm.
gone down that route.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Um, so what excites you most about the future of kind of like of BBC audiobooks at SFH? Yeah, so I'm kind of I'd be interested to hear what you say about Doctor Who, but also kind of like wider. Yeah, what do you yeah, what's exciting about the future?
Yeah. Well, starting with Doctor Who,
Yeah.
as it's the thing I do work on most.
Yeah.
Um, I am excited about the prospect of venturing into the longer original novels,
Mm,
as we talked about earlier. I'm
mm,
also really excited about our audio originals range, which
yeah.
we've been publishing that for, a good few years now. Again, that's 20 years. Um, but as you mentioned, we entered uh, Agent of the Daleks into the
Mm,
the Speakers Awards,
yeah.
and it was shortlisted. And I think it was a really strong title. It was an example of an original way of telling a story
Mm,
with a terrific reading from Maureen
mm,
O'Brien and terrific sound design. So it just
mm,
goes to show that we can still enjoy new ways of doing things. And
yeah.
so I'm excited about the challenge really of continuing that and
Yeah.
topping it in many ways. Um, and of course, with Doctor Who, you never know what's on the horizon in
Yeah.
terms
Yeah.
of the TV series
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, are there in other areas? We have a backlist of sci-fi, as I mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
and in recent years, you may have seen, or some of the uh, viewers may have seen, we Demon Records has been
Mm.
putting out some of our sci-fi backlist.
Yeah.
So on vinyl LPs,
Mhm.
we've
Yes,
done the
I've got
complete.
a couple of them over there.
Have you? Right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. What have you got?
I have Doctor Who related ones.
Right.
But yes, I think I've got Genesis of the Daleks, which I think was one of the
Yeah.
ones you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah.
So,
We've done lots of the TV Doctor Who
yeah.
TV
Yeah.
soundtracks, but we've also
Mm.
done Terry Pratchett,
Mm.
um, Neil Gaiman, several of those,
Yeah.
Hitchhikers, and there are other things in the works.
Mhm.
So some of which are extremely exciting. So
Yeah.
I'm looking
Okay.
forward to
Cool.
working on those. Um, and yeah, as for other, I don't. I have colleagues over
Mm.
at Penguin Random House who
Yeah.
look after the general BBC audio output
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
days. So that is anything that Radio 4 is making
Mm.
at the moment that they
Yeah.
choose to publish, or indeed it's mining the archive. And as I
Yeah.
mentioned, in back in the day when I
yeah,
was looking after science fiction. We did all those John Wyndhams, and we did all
yeah,
those. We did a terrific box set called Classic Radio Sci-Fi that had things like Solaris
mm,
in a
yes,
really good radio adaptation, Frankenstein,
yeah,
and others. So they're always there, and sometimes there are new ways to remarket
mm,
them.
yeah, yeah,
But I'm sure there will also be other science fiction that's coming down the line
yeah,
from BBC Radio.
yeah. Okay, okay. All right. Well, I think we're coming up to time, so I just want to sort of thank you so much for your time, Michael. It's just been fantastic talking to you, and kind of yeah, and yeah, it's just been an absolute thrill, and
Yeah, it's been
I'm very
really.
excited to hear more about the 90s novelization readings, sort of like when those come to fruition. So
Well,
yeah,
perhaps we'll be able to talk again
yeah, maybe, yes,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. That I will be thrilled. Yes,
Okay,
absolutely
great.
brilliant. So thank you once again.